This is the official 0 to 60. This is going to be our sexy cold open for the video. Let's go.
Wheel spin, wheel spin.
I don't think I'm going to get to 60 before it's...
Nope.
Nope. We're in a neighborhood, so I'm not going to keep going at 50.
It's the whole thing where it's 0 to 60 eventually.
Hey everyone, welcome to Out of Spec Reviews. I'm Max, and this is the next continuation of the Cheap EV series, where we are going to buy a sub $25,000 electric vehicle. In our first episode, we looked at the Chevy Bolt, which was a spec killer. Well, here is a 2016 Volkswagen e-Golf SE. So thank you to Emic Volkswagen of Boulder for letting us use one in their inventory. This might be the one we go with. We might look at some others. Later in the video, we'll look at other used ones nearby. But this e-Golf is one I wanted to look at because, well, it's a Golf. And if you're a car person, you know what that means. It's going to have great driving dynamics. And e-Golf, unlike the Bolt, which was a ground-up electric car, is a conversion. So this is a conversion of a 7th generation Golf. And that has its upsides and its downsides. Upsides are, it was cheap to begin with. It's pretty cheap now. This particular one's $20,000. And it's a Golf, so it drives well, it has great dynamics. They focus on making it pretty efficient and lightweight, so it only weighs about 200 pounds more than its gas sibling. So the downsides here are battery and specs. It is 24 kilowatt hours in this unit, equating to 83 miles of EPA estimated range. That's a lot less than the Bolt. Basically, if I do my math here, less than a third of the range of that Bolt with a new battery pack. Also, like the Nissan Leaf, this is an air-cooled battery pack. Volkswagen said at the time they did it for efficiency reasons. Let's walk around the car and take kind of a look and go over some more of the specs. So, like the Bolt, and like, honestly, basically any of the EVs we're going to look at in this price range, this is front-wheel drive only. There was never any R variant, no all-wheel drive here to speak of. So we're looking at the specs here, a 115 horsepower motor, of course, just driving the front wheels. That equates also to 199 pound-feet of torque, which can push this puppy from 0 to 60 in over 9 seconds. So not a speed king either. And so you might think, you know, this doesn't have anywhere near the range of the Bolt. Sure, it's a little bit cheaper than the Bolt, but it's also a lot slower than the Bolt. Why look at it at all? Well, we're car nerds. We love the Golf. I think it looks unquestionably better than the Bolt. We'll see how it drives in the driving portion of this video, but frankly, we just wanted to look at it because this is a compliance car. And the thing about compliance cars is manufacturers made them for California regulations, basically. And you know, there's deals to be had there. Sure, they want ground-up EVs. This isn't as ambitious as the Bolt was, but this is just quirky. It's interesting. It's kind of a cool part of car history that we're not going to see repeated because, of course, now everyone's building their ground-up EVs, and that's the boring thing. So it's kind of exciting to go back in time to an era when manufacturers were taking their ICE vehicles and doing, you know, poor to, in this case, fairly decent jobs of converting them to electric. But enough of me blabbering on. Let's look at some of the details that make you know this is an e-Golf and not a normal Golf. So the big thing is actually the DRLs here. So if you see one on the road with a light up DRL here, that's how you know it's an e-Golf. I've always liked this detail. It basically just looks like a Golf, but it has these light up DRLs. It also has badging, of course, here that tells you it's an e-Golf, which I like a lot. Now, this model is the SE, so unfortunately it does have halogen headlights. However, unlike a Mercedes EQB, which cost about $60,000 we were looking at recently, this model has keyless entry as standard. Nice to see. Volkswagen, even back in 2016, was doing pretty well on the standard features. Now, if we go around, I can show you basically the profile of the car. It is a Golf. We have actually pretty standard tires because it's a Golf, so they're reasonably wide. They're 16-inch wheels, and the tires here are some Yokohamas. The Bolt we were looking at was on Michelin Energy Savers. We'll see how these guys perform in the driving segment. But if we go around the back, well, it is a Golf. So I'm going to unlock it here. And we've got our classic, of course, 7th generation opening mechanism. I love this way of opening the trunk. And yeah, we've got our storage here. So in terms of the charging situation, you're getting a 120 volt adapter here, so you could just plug this into your wall. Now this car has the DC fast charging option. That was not optional sorry, that was not standard until 2019 on the e-Golf. So on 2016 models, 2017 models, you're really going to want to look out for that DC fast charging package unless it's an SEL trim, in which case that fast charging would be standard. But if you're looking at SC like we are for cost, then make sure you get that DC fast charging option. Not only does it give it DC fast charging, it also gave it 240 volt AC charging up to 7.2 kilowatts. If you didn't get that package, you're limited to 3.6 kilowatt charging at home. That's pretty slow even by standards of the time, so I would recommend getting that package. Now if I go around here, let's look at the charger here. It is where the gas cap would be on a normal Golf, so that's how you can tell this is a conversion, not like the Bolt, which put it up front on the side. Here, just of course on the rear passenger side. So does have that DC fast charging. That is great to see. At least Volkswagen did that. So yeah, that's just kind of a quick walk around of the e-Golf. Again, numbers wise, this, you know, is questionable, but you can't argue with a Golf being a Golf. I also love this light blue color. So now Jordan and I are going to drive it. We'll tell you how it drives. And then in the last part of the video, we're actually going to do a buyer's guide segment. We'll tell you which trim to look for, and then we'll kind of go over some of the other used ones in our area. So stay tuned.
I want to say a huge thank you to Sparrow World for sponsoring today's video. Hey, these guys are doing something pretty incredible. They are supporting our forgotten Afghan allies through this wonderful charity, which you can find on freedomraffle.org. All you have to do is purchase a $150 ticket and you're immediately entered to win a Tesla Model S Plaid. Guess what? Sparrow World already has the Plaid, so as soon as you win the raffle, it shouldn't take long for you to get the car. On top of that, you have the best chances ever that I've seen of winning one of these cars in the raffles that we've done here. And that's because Sparrow World has only sold about 20% of their tickets coming up to their deadline. So all you have to do is head to freedomraffle.org to support our forgotten Afghan allies by purchasing some tickets. And of course, you're entered to win that awesome Model S Plaid. Best of luck, and thank you to Sparrow Worldwide for sponsoring today's video.
All right, Jordan, we're in the e-Golf 2016 SE. What do you think of this interior just before we start driving?
It's Golf, quintessentially Golf, which is a good thing in this generation anyways.
Yes, and like the Bolt, this does have a engine start-stop button for more of an understandable reason, right? That's where the engine start-stop system would be in a gas Golf.
Yep.
So right off the bat, I'm shifting into PRND, and Jordan, if you point the camera at the gear selector, you can kind of see here that, well, PRND, but there's also a B mode. Now, EV nerds among you will probably be able to guess that that is for high regen. However, if you're in D, you can also shift between, I think, 4 recuperation modes by going to the plus or minus, kind of like how you can you know, use manual shift in some old torque converter automatics. They've just adapted that model to basically be, well, recuperation mode changes. Actually, I think on the dual clutch Golfs, this literally would be how you shift gears. So yeah, you can tell this is a compliance car. But as we kind of get going here right off the bat, you know, good turning radius. This is a Golf. It is, of course, that MQB platform. So dynamically, this car didn't change too much. However, I should note that the very next model year, 2017, if you care about range, got a lot better because that model added, instead of this 24 kilowatt hour pack, a 35 kilowatt hour pack that gave it 125 miles of EPA range. Still not great, but better. And if you get the SEL on either model year, you know, any of the e-Golfs that were ever made, you get the heat pump, which in Colorado in the winter, I'm not gonna lie, I think I would want. So for that reason, we'll look later on in this video at some of the other used e-Golfs and see if we can hopefully find an SEL one for cheap, because this one is $20,000, just over that for the SE. And the leather seats and other upgrades that you get, you know, LED headlights, those are nice, but I think the heat pump functionally is probably what I would care most about.
Heat pump is still no liquid-cooled battery, right?
Yes, air-cooled battery in e-Golf and all of the official e-Golfs ever made out of the factory. Now there was, I was looking up on the internet, this Austrian startup that did use an e-Golf as a test bed for their liquid-cooled batteries. And they actually put a 55 kilowatt hour pack in here that would have given this like Chevy Bolt style range. But sadly, that was just a proof of concept. Volkswagen never officially did anything like that. Yep. The biggest we ever got was that upgraded 35 kilowatt hour pack, which does the like, to reiterate, doesn't have. However, I think because it's 2016 model year, we probably have some room to go down on price on ones like these, because it's just not that much range. Right now it's estimating for us, I believe, 73 miles of range, and we essentially have close to 90% on the gauge there for battery. So also funny in these gas conversions, you can see the battery gauge, I think, is basically just an analog gauge. Like I don't know what it would have been in the gas Golf, like not RPMs, but maybe your actual 12 volt voltage or something.
Yeah. They just reuse the existing gauge faces, which makes sense.
Yeah, which, you know, cost saving, it's the same platform, but I just find that really funny because nowadays in EVs, right, you can't help but walk away from some massive representation of your battery status and hear just a little gauge there.
Yeah, but these compliance cars are all about being compromised in some way because they are essentially a gas platform converted, so that's why I usually see smaller battery, less range, still useful range for a lot of people, I think. Like if you are in a smaller town or city or just don't have a big commute, I mean, this would be pretty perfect for a lot of people, and that's just not the car you take on road trips, for example.
Yes, definitely not a road tripper. However, this does have the DC fast charging package, and I think Volkswagen said at the time 30 minutes to 80%. That's not because of any impressive kilowatt rate, that's just because it's such a darn small battery. However, we were both in the EQB recently, and I don't know if that video will go up or when, but that was not the world's quickest charger.
Pretty terrible.
So, yeah, this is charging quicker than a 2022 luxury SUV just by virtue of having tiny battery. Of course, you can't go nearly as far in range.
But as far as driving this thing, I mean, me as a passenger right now, I'm in a Golf. I wouldn't really tell the difference. I mean, maybe a little bit quieter than the engine one, but if you're not getting like the Golf R, that's not that loud anyways. So there's not much difference. I mean, did they make any suspension changes that you know of or anything? It's really just drivetrain, front-wheel drive, Golf feeling, but electrified.
Yes, and that's a good thing because low center of gravity, so arguably better than a normal Golf, which is really nice. It's super nice around town to cruise, just like any EV. The fact that you have a single speed transmission, right, that fixed gear ratio means that you don't have any of this, like you might have an automatic Golf, this like dual clutch engagement in traffic, or dealing with a manual, which is a plus or minus, right? There's no manual here to speak of, no transmission really. So I think that's a big benefit. Like you were saying, as a city car, this is really nice.
So you said 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. Let's give it the beans. Okay,
we're at 50.
It threw my head back in the seat just like VTEC would in an early 2000s Civic.
VTEC did not kick in though, because there's no valves here. This is but it was like VTEC kicked in, and oh my gosh, I don't think we even got to 60. I didn't want to.
No. It's that funny thing though, it's like VTEC's not that fast, but you still kind of throw your head back almost because it's funny.
Yeah.
That's what I felt in this.
It's for the meme, and I'll give this car credit. That launch, I was in B mode. I think the B which is the more aggressive regen mode, actually does limit performance. So let's give ourselves some open space here and give another launch and drive once we get a chance, because we want to be fair to the e-Golf.
But as far as NVH and everything, it's just Golf.
Yeah, and honestly, which is good. Like NVH is really well controlled. Of course, we're not at highway speeds, but it's solidly put together. Arguably better put together than the new 8th generation Golfs, which have been very decontented, right? They've kind of, some people have noticed a downgraded material quality on those newer Golfs.
Yeah.
And if you're not a fan of piano black, well, you don't have much of that here, so that's nice.
You have piano gray.
A little bit less showy on the fingerprints. Also, you have, I love this is such a charm.
Funny, volume knob that twists with the logo. It's so funny.
A note on infotainment. Standard CarPlay did actually come on 2016 on that SE trim. That's nice to see. So basically, if you get as long as you don't get a base model year 2015 e-Golf, if you get 2016 or newer, regardless of which trim you get, it seems you get CarPlay and Android Auto. Of course, it's not wireless, it's USB. This was 2016, but that is pretty sweet. Yeah, it's a 6.5-inch screen, but hey, arguably for some people this might be better than that fancy new glossy kind of laggy screen on the new Mark 8 Golfs.
It is better.
Jordan said it, it's official. I don't have a ton of space because there's a Versa in front of me, but why don't we just do a 30 to 60?
Oh, even sent the camera up a little bit.
30, yeah, so I think there's a little bit more go when you're not in B, because that B mode, not only does it seem to have more aggressive regen, I think it limits our throttle input a bit more. There are drive modes in this car too. So if you look at this button I can press here, there is an eco mode. So we go from 115 horsepower and almost 200 pound-feet of torque to less than that. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 90 horsepower. So let's go in eco and see what that's like. It's slower.
And then there's Eco Plus, I guess.
I think that would shut off our climate. Let's actually see. Eco Plus. AC still going, but I believe it says driving performance limited. Let's actually, here we go. Optimal profile for economical driving, convenience functions, and vehicle performance, very limited.
Wow. So we're going to launch it with this.
We'll be fair. We'll put it in normal because we're at a stoplight here. Perfect opportunity for a launch. This is the official 0 to 60. This is going to be our sexy cold open for the video. Let's go.
Wheel spin, wheel spin.
I don't think I'm going to get to 60 before it's...
Nope.
Nope. We're in a neighborhood, so I'm not going to keep going at 50.
It's the whole thing where it's 0 to 60 eventually. The thing with these cars, especially electric ones and compliance cars commonly, is low power, so 84 kilowatt, 115 horsepower, but decent torque. The 199 pound-feet of torque is like hot hatch territory.
So you get that power very predictably, right? Very linearly.
Quick, early on. The place this will die is literally like high speed. If you're trying to do like a 60 to 80 pass on the highway, good luck.
Yeah, and that's and if you're on the highway, you're really looking at like 60 miles of range, probably.
If that, yeah.
And then of course there's the winter driving thing. I keep harping on the heat pump, but I feel like, you know, I don't care about it so much in the Bolt because the Bolt has amazing range.
Yep.
Here, I'm really concerned about what winter is going to do to this for efficiency. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Now, I would want this to be cheaper than a Bolt, and luckily the market agrees it is, but I want it to be like a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I would be like, this is a $10,000 to $15,000 car, but of course the market has gone crazy. So we'll see if this settles back down to that region, or maybe it never will.
And the next part of this video, you know, this one's $20,000, but it's through a dealer. Let's see, we're gonna look on Auto Tempest in the next part of this video. Let's see if we can find a used one within a, you know, generous radius near us that's cheaper than this.
Sounds great, let's do that.
Okay, so I have Auto Tempest pulled up on my phone, and we're gonna see if we can find a better deal than this 2016 SE e-Golf anywhere near us. And I'm gonna be pretty generous. So what I'm gonna do here is I've given it a 500-mile search radius for any Volkswagen e-Golf models within that radius of Boulder and Auto Tempest. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna search cars.com, Carvana, Craigslist, all your normal places. So here we see the one we're actually testing right now from this Boulder dealer. But if we scroll down, there's another result for a very similar model that's actually cheaper. It's in Utah. However, it has a little bit higher mileage on it. Now, mileage on these is something that you'll have to keep in mind. Also, the state it's in. Like Utah, that's a pretty hot weather state, and that's something I'd be concerned with because unlike the Bolt, right, this is an air-cooled battery pack. And unlike a Nissan Leaf, which has a useful LED display on the gauge cluster to tell you how degraded the battery is, there's nothing like that to my knowledge on e-Golf. So battery degradation is gonna have to be, well, something you have to really take a fine look at. And generally, I think the best way to avoid that is finding a lower mileage unit, even if it's an older model year like 2016. Also, the other thing, like I mentioned earlier, 2017 e-Golfs, if you can find those or newer, have that upgraded 35 kilowatt hour pack. Significantly more range you get out of that. It's still air-cooled, but it is a bigger pack. As I'm scrolling down here, I'm seeing some results on Carvana. So there is an SEL for just under 23 grand, still well under that 25 grand price point. Decent mileage on that. Now, the benefit of the SEL, that trim, it is the luxury trim, so you get the nicer materials on the interior, you get LED headlights, that's the big safety feature I'd care about, but the big EV feature I would care about is the heat pump being included on that, because heat pumps, especially in a climate like we are in Colorado in winter, I think are going to be really important, particularly on a car like this with very limited range to begin with. Basically, having a heat pump means that the car can much more efficiently heat itself, both the battery and the climate control on the car and keep that range in winter instead of degrading even more. So as we scroll down, I'm seeing another SC for pretty cheap on Carvana. A lot of SCs, they're all 2016. Oh, here's a 2019 SC, but it's substantially more expensive and it's quite high mileage. Almost $28,000 for a car with 50,895 miles. Honestly, you know, more standard equipment because it's a newer model year, it's that bigger battery pack, but that's quite a price premium to pay. So in terms of at least our market, it seems like the 2016 ones, which are less desirable now because of that small battery pack, are the value options to go with. Because let's face it, this vehicle has limited range to begin with. What's a little bit less range? And if it means saving money, that's important. Keep in mind though, that once you go above 25 grand, well, of course you're losing that 4 grand tax credit. And frankly, should you really be paying that much for an e-Golf? Yes, it's a Golf, but once you're looking at, you know, $27,000, $28,000, you might want to start considering, well, of course, a new Chevy Bolt, or if you want to stay in the Volkswagen family, maybe a very base model ID4, because those new ones are coming in at low prices, and they will be eligible for that tax credit it's looking like next year. That's for new vehicles, so that would be $7,500 off. So generally, my buying advice for e-Golf, try to keep that price south of 20 grand, under 20 grand, because 2016 models are where you want to look at for value. SC is fine, but do look for that DC fast charging package if you want to charge remotely quickly at all, because not only does it give you DC fast charging, but also doubles your rate from 3.6 on AC in your garage to 7.2 kilowatts. So you'd want that for reliably charging up overnight. That said, as a city car, this is looking great. So DC fast charging package, if you live in a cold climate like Colorado too, you probably will want that SEL trim just for the heat pump. Now, if you can get a good deal on a 2017 or newer, sure, that's great. But keep in mind, the bigger battery pack on those does bump up the price a lot, even on the used market. So these 2016 SCE Golfs might be somewhat of a hidden gem as a city car, definitely nowhere near the range of a Bolt. And they're not particularly speedy, but they are Golfs. And at the end of the day, a Volkswagen Golf is, well, a very enjoyable car to drive. So that has been the second part of our series looking at cheap EVs. Thank you so much for watching, and we have some more exciting candidates to look at in future episodes, so stay tuned. This has been Out of Spec Reviews.